Let's all join together in taking a nice big deep breath. Close your outer eyes and open wide those inner spiritual eyes. And let's recognize that divine presence that is everywhere present. That infinite love that continuously expands and grows within us, around us, expressing as us. I know that each one of us are united with that infinite love, with that absolute perfect presence. And in this unity, I know that each one of us is able to go deeper, deeper into that divine presence that is truly who we are. I know that each one of us can sense the infinite knowing that is deep within us, that expresses outward into the world. I give thanks for each moment of this service today. I give thanks for every note of music, for every interaction, and for every word that comes forward through today's service. As we bless this time together, I know that we are blessed. And so I release this into that beautiful divine law that gives us permission to express and to go deeper. I release and I let it be. Join me in saying, and so it is.
July 20th, learning how to float. When we stop struggling, we float. When first learning how to swim, I didn't trust the deep. Boy, can I relate to that. No matter how many assuring voices I heard from shore, I strained and flapped to keep my chin above the surface. It exhausted me. And only when exhausted did I relax enough to immerse myself to the point that I could feel the cradle of the deep keep me afloat. I've come to understand that this is the struggle we all replay between doubt and faith. When thrust into any situation over our head, how many of us have been in situations over our head? Yeah, a few of us. The rest of you are just so fortunate. Wow. When thrust into any situation over our head, our reflex is to fight with all our might the terrible feeling that we are sinking. Yet the more we resist, the more we feel our own weight and wear ourselves out. At times like this, I remember learning to float. Mysteriously, it required letting almost all of me rest below the surface before the deep would hold me up. It seems to me almost 40 years later that the practice of finding our faith is very much like that. We need to rest enough of ourselves below the surface of things until we find ourselves upheld. This is very hard to do, but the essence of trust is believing you will be held up if you let go. And though we can practice relaxing our fear and meeting the deep, there is no real way to prepare for letting go other than to just let go. Once immersed, once below the surface, it is not by chance that things slow down, go clear, and feel weightless. Perhaps faith is nothing more than taking the risk to rest below the surface. That we can't stay there only affirms that we must choose the deep again and again in order to live fully. That we must move through the sense of sinking before being upheld is what trusting the universe is all about. So our topic today is, as Brent already gave it away, there's a spoiler. I should have warned spoiler alert. No, I'm just teasing. It was already up there. The topic today is going deep. In our month of growing deeper, rising higher, and deep knowing. And so this month we've been exploring different gateways, different pathways, different openings into going deep. We began the first week with shifting our perception, seeing life in uncommon ways instead of our conditioned perceptions and reactions. And then the next week we experienced shape shifting, moving. Remember moving for those who were here? We had the folks in dances of universal peace guide us into some moving into that. So moving into deeper knowing, feeling that. And then last week we talked about letting go of our conditioned addiction to logical and rational perceiving, recognizing that the deep operates through a rationality, an order, a logic, if you will, that is beyond our ability to perceive from our present viewpoint. It's working at a higher level than we are. Matt and Joy Kahn, in their new book, Awakening Intelligence, say, we often think of intelligence as something we must earn through degrees, scores, hard work, or the relentless pursuit of personal growth. But what if intelligence was never meant to be the result of our efforts alone? What if intelligence does not begin in the brain, but is tuned into, like a frequency, a resonance, or a relationship? What if intelligence is not something we create, but something we access? So today we're going to look at another doorway into the deep, and that doorway is compassion. Take a breath. Compassion allows us to move out of right-wrong duality and into the field of infinite love and infinite connection, interconnection with all of life. And since the nature of the divine is love, the practice of compassion then aligns us with that nature of the divine, thus knowing the deep, not knowing about the deep, but knowing the deep, feeling the deep, living, embodying the deep. And from that deep knowing, compassion is a doorway that incorporates, if you will, all of the other practices that we've talked about, all of the previous doorways we've talked about. Love, compassion accepts all things. I'll say it again. Love or compassion accepts all. How many? All things. Breathe. This is a tremendous challenge for our fearful, conditioned egos that believe that their view is the right view. None of you are like that, but you know people out there, right? Okay? And that they must have their way, or their world, the world, will fall apart, and they will be hurt or killed or rejected again. Last week I was in my office and I had the window open, and there was a little drama that took place passing by my door, my house out there. For those who don't know, behind me is a park, and so there's a lot of kids who play in there. And so this was a little kid and his parents walking back from the park, and the little kid was in trauma drama. How many of you know what I mean by trauma drama? Okay. And he was in trauma drama. I couldn't see you. I thought I had lost you. And the parents were going, but we were right there, and we could see you the whole time. But I couldn't see you, and I thought I had lost you. And he wasn't going to be consoled. And by the way, by the time he got in there, it was about probably a good 5 or 10 minute walk just to get from the park to that spot by my house, right? So he'd been going for a while. And he was going to keep on going. You know how kids get with that little kind of sobbing thing that they're faking it? They're not really hurt, but they want the parents to think they're hurt. How many of you know about that? You've either done it or you've been parents? Yeah, okay. So that's what it was. And our ego is like that. Our ego believes its own perceptions. I didn't see you, so therefore I wasn't seen. Therefore I was in danger, and I was going to lose you, when frankly it's the parents' job not to lose the kid, right? And they were there. But our child ego doesn't see it. So that kid will be doing therapy down the road, and probably maybe getting into religious science and seeing a practitioner for months and months working on it. But our ego believes its own perceptions, its own beliefs, whether they're true or not. Richard Rohr talks about something called that he calls the cosmic egg. And the cosmic egg is a kind of a four-layered egg, if you will, in his perception. And the first layer of that egg is my story. We all have my story, yes? Okay? It's my story. And then we have our story. And our story is usually my friends and family, those who are close to me. It's our story. And if we're not careful, we suddenly discover there might be the third layer, other stories. And that's all contained within the idea that there is the story, what we in religious science call capital T truth, or capital R reality, the one that's bigger than our perception thinks that it is. And so the ego believes the my story and our story to be the story. Yes, I will. Just notice any fundamentalist Christians who will tell you that their belief about God is the right belief about God. Yes? Okay. Even though God's bigger than that. By the way, God is bigger than our belief about God. I can't remember who it was right off who said that whatever we think about God, no matter how good, no matter how big it is not God. It's still more than that. But the ego believes my and our story as the story and is challenged by other stories, and especially the real story. Compassion opens us to seeing other stories and learn from them, and from them gain greater perspective about the story. Because most of us are running around the world kind of like the 5 blind men and the elephant. You know that story? You know, where 5 blind men encounter an elephant, and they each say an elephant is like whatever part of the elephant they encounter. So it's like a snake, it's like a tree, it's like depending on what part they're touching, and they're insisting that's what the elephant is like. And none of them are completely wrong, but they're also not seeing the big picture. So when we open to other stories, we gain greater perspective about the story, which is the experience and the perspective of going deep. Compassion is challenging because it calls for us to be open to pain and suffering of others, which in turn can often trigger and open us up to facing our own grief, pain, and suffering. Breathe. And the fear that grief, pain, and suffering will completely consume us and we will sink, as our reading talked about. Compassion calls for us to learn how to let others in without becoming them. So I can have compassion for your story, for your journey, for your experience, without having to take it on as my own. And then without drowning in our own pain and grief and suffering. Great spiritual teachers such as Jesus, Buddha, and others help us to see that there is something within us that is greater than the grief and the pain, that can yet hold that pain, that grief, that suffering, without being consumed by it. That can hold it, but is not consumed by it. As we go deep, we find that something, we find that place within us, and we learn how to float. We learn how to let it buoy us. Not we learn how to buoy ourselves. We learn how to let this thing, this deep, buoy us up, support us, and be a grounding anchor even in stormy seas. Tibetan Buddhists have a practice called Tonglen, which invites us to breathe in the suffering of the world, remembering that we are part of the world, by the way, yes? So we breathe in our own suffering too. This includes our own suffering. And then to hold that grief and suffering in that unbreakable place of compassion and of deep love, that deep within. To hold it in that place, allowing that compassion, allowing that love, which is greater than we know, to dissolve the pain And then to breathe it back out as light, to breathe it back out as wholeness, as loving kindness. The value of going deep is that we strengthen our awareness of and trust in that place of deep knowing. As we practice it, as we discover it, it's like Mark Nepo talked about the first time he learned how to swim, flailing around at first until he finally exhausts himself. But after a while, realizing, oh no, this is just how it works. Can I trust this? And so as we practice, as we do our spiritual practice, which is the purpose of it, we allow ourselves to recognize and to be in that place of deep knowing. It becomes more familiar to us. It becomes something that we can tap into more easily instead of just, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God all the time. We can say, wait, in the middle of oh my God, there is an oh my God that we can do. So let's take a few moments and practice Tonglen. Are you up for that? A few people are. We're all going to do it anyway. Well, you don't have to, but I'm going to guide us, those who want to, in it. So I invite you to relax and take a few deep breaths. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. And just breathe steadily. You don't have to make your breath into anything, just breathe. And bring into your mind and your heart a place of pain, your own or someone else's. Breathe deeply, inhaling that pain into the center of deep compassion within you. It's not something you have to make happen. You're just bringing it into this place. I sometimes call it placing it on an altar of spirit. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to fix it. I don't have to heal it. I'm just going to leave it on that altar and let that infinite deep knowing, that deep compassion, hold it. Allow that pain to simply rest in this field of infinite love. Nothing to do. Just let it rest there. And now as you're ready, breathe it out. Knowing that you have transformed some part of that pain simply by bringing your loving consciousness to it, your loving compassion to it. Breathe it back out, see it as light. Take 3 deep breaths. And then gently return your awareness to the room. There is a balancing quality that comes with compassion. If you're familiar with the Hinduism, they always have, all the gods have a balancing God with them. There's the God of creation, the God of destruction, the God of compassion, the God of war. There's a pairing to it. So compassion has a companion, a balancing. And that quality is discernment, the quality of discernment. And many spiritual people wrestle with the difference between judgment and discernment. It's been said that discernment is judgment having grown up, becoming more mature, yes? So judgment usually carries an emotional charge, a strong right-wrong duality to it. I'm right, they're wrong. They're right, I'm wrong, whatever. Whereas discernment is a calm assessment of what works and what doesn't, and making wise choices just from that calm assessment. There's no right-wrong involved in it, but there is an awareness of what works. I oftentimes use the example when I teach forgiveness that if someone steals something from you every time they visit your house, You can have compassion for them, you can forgive them, and you don't have to invite them to your house anymore. That's discernment. Compassion doesn't mean you have to continue to suffer or allow suffering. Discernment is just simply being aware of what is. Years ago, I was walking through a beautiful little kind of oasis in the Anza Borrego Desert called Palm Canyon outside of Palm Springs. Walking down through that, and there were people about 25 feet ahead of me that on the path, and this is a beautiful palm canyon, so lots of palm trees. There's a wonderful, pretty good stream running through it, and all of a sudden I saw these people ahead of me scream and start running. And so I kind of went on a little bit of alert, and just stopped, and it's like, what's going on there? And all of a sudden I saw this very large rattlesnake come sliding out from the right side, kind of down a little hill there, across the path, slides down the embankment, goes into the stream, floats itself, swims downstream, lets itself just be carried downstream. It's holding its head above the water. And a little ways down the stream is this large flat rock in the sun. And it just climbs up onto that rock and curls itself around. And if it could have made a noise, it would have said, ah. It was beautiful. Yes? Most people look at a rattlesnake and see danger, and they respond with fear, fight, flight, or freeze, right? I, fortunately in that moment, responded with curiosity. Let's just see what's going on, which, by the way, is a very healthy way to approach life. Discernment is knowing not to go try to pet the rattlesnake or invite it into my sleeping bag to sleep with me that night. That's discernment. It's to recognize this is beautiful just the way it is, and it and I don't work well together in close contact. Just let it be what it is. I will let me be what it is, and all is well. That's discernment. There's an old story that some of you probably know of there's a scorpion sitting on the bank of a river, and he can't swim across the river, and a frog comes along. And he asks the frog to carry him across the river, and the frog says, you might sting me halfway across, and then I would die. And the scorpion says, nope, I won't do that. I promise you I will not do that, because I do want to get across the river. So he hops on the frog's back. The frog finally says yes. Hops on the frog's back. They start swimming across the river. Halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog. And the frog, as he's dying, says, what the heck did you do that for? Now we're both going to die. And the scorpion says, I know, but it's just my nature. I couldn't help myself. We all know people who, I think it's Maya Angelou who says, if somebody tells you who they really are, believe them. And they don't often always tell you who they really are by the words, they tell you by their actions. And so discernment is noticing who people are and allowing yourself to approach them, but not with judgment, simply with compassion. I see who you are, and I'm going to let you be who you are, and I'm not going to hang with you. Opening to compassion does not mean more suffering. Opening to deep knowing doesn't mean losing our rational minds. Kim Hermanson says, the intelligent field wants to take you somewhere, let it. The intelligent field, this infinite intelligence, wants to take us somewhere. Can we say yes? Can we go swimming in the deep? And so this week I want to invite us into 3 practices. The first one is to practice uncommon perception, particularly in challenging circumstances. Expand your view to include other stories. So oftentimes we look at a thing, we say, it's this way. It's just, this is the only way to view it. Can we find a different way to look at that same thing? Wait, let me get somebody else's viewpoint. If we would do this in politics, we wouldn't be having the huge polarization that we're having now. Polarization is refusing to see and hear anybody else's viewpoint. It's me, I'm right. And you're wrong. Breathe. So, first practice, uncommon perception. Am I willing to say, is there another way to view this? Can I go to that infinite wisdom within me and say, show me another way to view this if it causes me distress? Okay? That's the first practice. The second practice is to practice compassion and discernment this week. Hold the world around you and yourself in love and gentleness. Practice compassion. Again, particularly when you don't want to. Particularly when somebody walks up and is pointing a switch at you and trying to turn you on or off. Practice compassion. I'm playing with Shani. Thank you. By the power of God within me, I command, let there be light, whatever. This would be a working projector. There's no light on here. You can come up here if That's the second practice. Practice compassion, discernment. The third practice is to spend some time going deep. Spend some time opening to the deep, contemplating it, feel it. In our meditation this morning, I used a mantra that Ernest Holmes oftentimes uses, which is God in me, as me, is me. God in me, love in me, compassion in me, wisdom in me, is me, as me. So practice spending some time going to the deep. Will you play with those three practices this week? So a couple of you will. Good. Boy, we have an enthusiastic audience this morning. Will you play with those practices this week? At least one of them. I want to close with a reading from Kim Hermanson's book, Deep Knowing. She says, many years ago, at a particularly low point in my life, I had a vision of an old, worn-out, shabby, lonely house filled with ragged, dusty old furniture. I ascended the stairs to an attic that was empty except for a wooden chair next to a small table. On the little table was a nondescript little black book. I sat on the chair, opened the book, and out poured wave upon wave of intense, glowing, vibrant beauty. Magnificent colors danced in front of me in the most exquisitely striking patterns I had ever seen. The beauty came out with such force it was almost overwhelming. When we engage deep knowing, it's like opening that little black book. To think that we might spend our lives inside that dusty house, and all the while there is an ordinary black book up in the attic sitting on a table just waiting for us to open it. The intelligent field wants to take you somewhere. It wants to open a new space. Say yes. We have an affirmation, which, oh, good, it is up there. Say this with me. I open to the deep by practicing compassion with discernment. One more time. I open to the deep by practicing compassion with discernment. So it is.